Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome. Sorry for the late start here. We had a few technical difficulties this morning, but we're here. We're so happy that you're joining us. As you're popping in, go ahead and drop in the chat where you're joining us from. We get folks from all over the world, and we love to see just where you're joining us from. I see a Chicago, Atlanta. Nice. There they come. Very cool. I'm going to share my screen here so we can get started. Welcome, welcome. Welcome. Awesome. All right, let's do share. Quick screen check. Can you all see my screen? Very cool. All right, if you're here for the how to communicate and engage with frontline employees, you are in the right spot. Welcome. We are joined by Jennifer Mathis from Silver Eagle Houston's distributor. Make sure that we've got pulled up. Also, too, I did this last time. I would love to start by flooding the chat with good news before we start. We did this last time in our last webinar, and it was so encouraging to see all of the good news. So if you've had something that you're excited about that's coming up, or something recently has happened to you that you're excited about, drop in the chat and let us know. Let's flood this webinar chat with great news. Bought a house. Congratulations, Allie. Anna got a new puppy. Congratulations. Incredible. I love seeing all of these. So good. Well, we'll give everyone just a few more minutes to join too, but also just a few housekeeping things before we get started. First of all, we're so glad you're here. We know everyone is really busy. You have deadlines to meet, right? Emails to send, tasks to do. So we're just really grateful that you're taking the hour out of your day to spend it with us. So thank you. Thank you. Also, I'm so incredibly excited to be joined today by our friend and workshop customer, Jennifer Mathis. Jennifer currently serves as communications and media manager at Silver Eagle Distributors Houston, one of the nation's leading beverage distributors. So in her role, she's responsible for internal and external communications, executive messaging, media buying, and managing the corporate giving strategy. So today I'm so excited to listen and to learn from her on her tips, tricks, and the channel mix that Silver Eagle Distributors Houston uses to communicate with their frontline employees. So we can go ahead and get started. I'm actually going to share the presentation here. Let me get that pulled up. Jennifer, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to pass it off over to you, and you can just tell me when to click through for you, and I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm the one having technical difficulties today. We had some weather come through Houston and we're having a delay. So I'm going to turn my camera off while I go through the presentation just because I know I'm lagging. So I know it might be a little distracting, but my audio should be fine. But I'm excited to be here today to be with all of y'all. Kelsey said I worked in the beverage industry for about 10 years. Most recent years have been focused on internal communications and external communications and media. And today I just wanted to focus on what we're doing at Silver Eagle to better connect with our frontline teams. One thing that I've learned from when we started to today, it's just a constant hot topic that we're just always trying to figure out the puzzle. Kelsey, you can go to the next slide. So a little bit more about Silver Eagle. We are one of the largest independent beverage distributors in the nation. We serve the greater Houston area. We're based in Houston. We have 1,100 employees, and we service about 10,000 accounts across 3 different counties. We distribute all the really fun, exciting products that we know and love, including American import craft beers, canned spirits, non-alcoholic beverages, and water. So we have a wide portfolio of products that you can be found across Houston. So we have 5 branch locations, and Three of them, indicated by that asterisk on the right-hand side, Cypress, Houston, and Pasadena, they have warehouse operations. So that's just to show we have 5 sales and warehouse offices across the Houston area, and all our employees are located here in Houston. So that's something that's really important when communicating to our employees. You can go to the next slide, Kelsey. In terms of our audience, so everybody has different employee types, whether they're on-site or off-site, desk or deskless. It all just varies depending on the company and your business. And starting with our administrative employees, we have about 9% of our employees are administrative, and these are our on-site and desk workers. They are not remote or hybrid. They are majority are in a corporate office or at a branch, and they're on their desktop all day long. We're very familiar with these employees, and we know how to communicate with them, but their channel mix is going to be slightly different than our other audiences. So then we have our warehouse and fleet employees. These are employees that are on site and they are deskless. So most of these employees are on a forklift. They may be a forklift in the warehouse, moving product around, or they're repairing a truck. They're working on something in the fleet shop. And so they are scheduled in shifts and they may not ever see a message until they go on that break. So again, slightly different channel mix for this group. And then we have, for the purpose of today's conversation, we have our frontline employees, which we consider our entire sales employees, which is about 70% of our employee mix. These employees are offsite and they're deskless. They work with customers all day long, and they're typically working out of a vehicle or they're in an account, moving from account to account all day long. These employees are on an iPad, they're on a phone. They're typically not at a desktop. They may not even have a desktop or a laptop. These employees, they could be a driver where they come into the office, grab their keys, grab their truck and leave. And they're at their first account by 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, because that's when grocery stores open. Or it could be a merchandiser that leaves their personal house and they head to an account and they start grabbing items from back stock and they start stocking shelves. Or it could be a people manager, an area sales manager, where they come into the office just for a few hours, do a couple of things, and then they're in the market the rest of the day. So even within this group, they all look a little bit differently, but they are still offsite and from majority deskless. And the big thing is, some of these employees may never see another Silver Eagle employee throughout their day. So they are working with grocery store owners or managers or other employees they may see other distributors more than they see their own coworkers. And so it's really important to work and communicate with these groups and make sure that they are representing the company every day in the market, how we want them to represent the company. The other item with this group is that the company issues emails based on position and job function. So 65% of our frontline employees have company emails. So that means 35% don't. That drastically changes and affects just how we have our channel strategy and how we reach these employees. So overall, not one size fits all. Each group needs a little bit of a different method to stay informed. So the big question of the day, how do we reach these employees? How do we connect and how do we engage? And one thing that I've learned is it's a moving goalpost. I hope y'all enjoyed my AI generated clip art, but one thing that it's just a constant frontline. It's just constantly evolving and isn't static. Internal comms is changing, the technology is changing, the expectations changing, the audience is changing, and how they want to receive information is changing. The attention spans, we all know how much attention spans have changed over the last 10 years. So it's important to stay flexible, and our approach at Silver Eagle is just to stay flexible and evolve based on employee behaviors. So we're constantly changing, pivoting, and just understanding what it looks like and what we need to change. So how do we do that? So with our frontline employees, these are channels that we have identified as specific to our frontline employees. Of course, email. We all know email. We all know and love email. Some people may love it, some people may hate it, but as internal communicators, we love email and we are very familiar with that one. The other idea is SMS. So second channel that we have is SMS that we typically use a good bit. And then we have our mobile app and intranet. That for us is it is one channel for us. And so we'll go into more detail on all of these. but that is a channel that we definitely utilize. And then our town halls. We use town halls as a channel for our frontline employees, as well as podcasts and in-person events. So we are local in here in Houston, and so we want to engage with our employees, and we do consider events and employee engagement a channel for communication. So it's a mix. We want to mix all of our tools, all of our channels to reach them. And one thing that's not on here is digital signage and posters, because obviously they're not really at the branch. If they're coming in, they are in and out. They're not sticking around. They're not even, may not even be visiting with other people. We're not utilizing that as a communication channel for this group. And the idea, we know we're not going to reach every employee on all of our channels, but hopefully they see one or two or three of these. And so we have to have that layered approach and just make sure that the content that we're pushing out is visually appealing, it's engaging, and the delivery and timing is important as well. And so we're going to go through just a quick breakthrough and a deep dive into all these channels, and we'll start with email. So again, we're familiar with email. We know what this is, and we know that it's great for company updates. It's great for policies, any news, alerts, leadership messages, employee events. And then we have a weekly newsletter that we push out every Monday. And so that is a huge opportunity for us to reach our employees. And so we all know employees are workhorse for core communications. Specifically with email, if you go to the next slide, first, here at Silver Eagle, we moved to Workshop in 2022, and it was because of these features that we were able to incorporate into our internal comms. And it was really a game changer for us. We've been there with Workshop for about 2 years, and just the idea of having visually appealing a layout and consistent branding that is obviously consistent across the board. And with Workshop, it's just an easy drag and drop, and it makes it pretty. And you can see our banners at the top that we are very consistent with. The other idea with feature of Workshop is that it's mobile friendly. And so we didn't have this with our previous vendor. And when you send an email and you pulled it up on your phone or your Outlook app or your Google app or whatever you're pulling it up on, it did not transition well to a mobile message. And so this was huge when moving to Workshop because of these frontline employees. They're in the market, they're on iPads, they're on phones, and that's how they're receiving the information. And so we wanted to make sure it looks good and they can read it really easily. And then also the Spanish translation from Workshop, that we have a lot of Spanish speakers in Houston. And so at the top of our emails, we can include just a click button to translate all of the content to Spanish. And it's one quick button and it does the entire email. And so it's really great to be more inclusive and just be able to reach our employees however that may be. So I promised Workshop, Kelsey, and they did not ask me to say all of these things. This is really just how we truly feel at Silver Eagle and how we have been able to improve our internal communications and reaching frontline employees because of these features. And one of this was with our video integration. When we moved over 2 years ago, we started with essentially printing out a script of news that we wanted our employees to receive. And so we would go to a branch and have our employees read off the script, or we would go to the market and have them read off the script. And so that was really fun and engaging, and people really enjoyed that, or they really hated the idea of being on camera and ran from that. But some of our employees really enjoyed it, that being the one to deliver the script. And so then we would put together all these little video snippets and these scripts, and we would push it out of a video and push it through email. And that was our weekly update every Monday. And so it was great for 2 years. But like we said a few slides ago, it's a moving goalpost. So in the last 6 months, we saw some decline in our analytics of video engagement. And so we have since pivoted, and we've changed that a little bit to where we're not pushing out those scripts. We're doing more of a more traditional weekly newsletter on Monday. But we're still integrating video with recaps, like event recaps or employee spotlights or any of those kind of things, and still utilizing the video integration. But Workshop has an amazing integration with that. Also, timing of delivery. So one thing that we were doing with a different vendor was, like I previously said, most of our account employees, they're at their first account by 4 to 6 a.m. And so they're starting early, and we were sending out emails very early to match that. But what we saw when we moved to workshop is the timing of delivery was actually, or when we sent it, they weren't actually engaging until later on in the day, closer to around lunchtime. So we have since changed our delivery time and meeting them when they're actually engaging and have the time to stop and read emails or engage with these channels. And then, of course, the segmented, excuse me, the segmented audiences, we want to make sure that we are being very intentional of what we're sending and to whom we're sending it to. So we're not sending an email to everybody in the company unless it applies to everybody, or making it very specific with our distribution lists, or even segmenting parts of the email to certain distribution lists so that not everybody is seeing everything. So what they're getting is relevant to that person. And then also we have, so for this group in particular, we have about a 52% open rate. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. I think that's still good. Half of the group is seeing it. And we know that not everybody is going to see it. It goes back to that idea of personal emails. That's probably where some of that gap is. And because they may not be opening their Google, their Gmail every day. And so that is just something that we keep in mind. And we know that we're not going to reach everybody in email, but hopefully we reach them in another channel. On the right, you can just see some examples of, I've included some screenshots of certain messages that we have sent out just throughout. If you click one more time, Kelsey, you can see there is a GIF on one of our birthday. We send at the beginning of the month, we send an email to everybody celebrating a birthday that month for a reminder to go pick up their birthday beer. When you work at Silver Eagle, you get a case of beer or beverage for your birthday. That's just an email that we sent out. And that one is actually for Ghostwrite. We ghostwrite that one from the president of the company. And he's actually requested all of the replies to go to him as well. So whenever this email goes out and anybody replies and says thank you or appreciate it, he gets those messages and he actually really loves it and responds and engages with those employees. So here's just a few examples of how we've utilized email and specifically workshop. So for SMS, this is a great channel for those fast and urgent updates. It's highly effective. It's a great option for those deadline reminders, emergency updates. Unfortunately, here in Houston, we've had a few of those this year when with weather and hurricanes and crazy snow days that my daughter likes to say Elsa came to visit because everything was snowed out. We have unfortunately had to use SMS quite often for some company updates or changes. And on the right-hand side, I included a bunch of screenshots of some of those where they may not have a link, or it just may be just a quick reminder, hey, parking changes, or use this gate when you're coming back in from your route on events. So the bottom one is, we look forward to seeing you today at our event. That one just went to the people that were attending our event that day. But then one great feature of Workshop SMS is that there is a two-way communication. So we've actually really enjoyed using this and have found great value in this. So one way we've utilized that is on the kind of the middle bubble, tech bubble. It was about open enrollment. And so this last open enrollment, it was an active open enrollment, and we needed to hear from every employee to make sure that they were opting in or opting out of benefits. And we wanted to make sure that nobody was left behind. So we were sending emails and texts and over again, and it was the same group of people that weren't responding. And so we finally just said, if you want to get off this list, essentially reply with declined benefits. And then that way in workshop, we had their message of declined benefits and we could take them off their list, off our communication list. So then they weren't having to continue to hear from us over and over again about benefits when they weren't even going to sign up for it. Here's just a few examples of how we've utilized it. And the analytics with workshop, we have 100% success rate that they're all going through, really high rates from workshop and just through that database. And then when we do send a link, that we have a 51% click-through rate. How it works with workshop. So the top bubble, top left that was our weekly newsletter, and we include the email with that link. And so if they want to read the email and hear more about Astro's opening day and all those items, then they can click into that email. So that's where that 51% click-through rate comes from. And then we have a really great response. So we have only a 1% opt-out rate, which is really great that not many employees are asking to not receive communications, and so via SMS. So we're really happy with that. And we do, however, want to limit it as much as possible and just be considerate because it is a personal device and text is that one app where it's hard to disconnect from that personal and work. So we don't want to overload them with text messages from work and just make sure that we're very aware of that. Moving on to our mobile app and intranet. So we use Paylocity for our HRIS. And so that is the mobile app and intranet that we want employees to use. We don't want to add in another app. So we want to push everybody to Paylocity. So through Paylocity, they have a few different modules that we take advantage of and use. And one of them being community. And so that's that middle screenshot where you can post announcements. So we utilize this a lot for sweepstakes. If we have local tickets to any events, we put on there and say, hey, sign up to have the opportunity to win. And then we draw from those that entered, and then that is who wins our tickets. So we utilize those announcements for sweepstakes. We use it for company announcements, recognition, because you can tag the person in there as well. So those are just some ways that we have a channel for announcements through our mobile app. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the company link. So we consider that our intranet. So it's just on the app and you can access this via the app or the desktop. And that's just where all of our company links are, all the documents, self-service, just anything that you need for the company, it is located there. There's also an opportunity for peer-to-peer recognition through our intranet or through our mobile app. And so there are some great engagement tools as well. And we do have a good amount of traction on it because 92% of our users, our employees, use it monthly. We are having them, like, this is where you go for payroll. This is where you go to clock in. So they are using it for many different reasons. But we continue to have them continue to push for our employees. It's on Paylocity. Go to Paylocity. Go to the app. There is an ability to do push notifications through the app. And so that's the bottom the bottom screenshot right there, just an example of what the push notification looks like. You go to the next slide. This is information on our town halls. So we call these our monthly communication meetings, and it's just a great opportunity to bring people together to hear from leadership directly. So we go over company performance, business goals, business strategy, opportunity for Q&A, and just it's information that's presented by leadership. And we really want to make sure that all the content applies to everybody, even our frontline position, because we hear often that it's stopping our frontline employees from hitting the market. So if, like I said earlier, some of these employees are getting to their accounts between 4 and 6. The first time that we offer this meeting in person is 5:30. So that could be stopping them an hour from getting to their first account, which means an hour more of Houston traffic and an hour more people on the road. So we want to make sure that all the content applies to everybody and it is informative and is good information for everybody. So a few things that we do to make the meeting a little bit more exciting and engaging is we always offer a product to sample. So typically one of our NA waters or energy drinks. So if we have a new product that's coming out, we'll have samples there that they can take and try new products that they're now seeing in the market. They could be brand new, or it could be from other distributors or that we've recently picked up, or just trying something different that they've never had before. Additionally, we use this opportunity to recognize employees. So every quarter we have our Eagle Excellence Awards, where we recognize one employee from each branch that is living by our operating principles, and we give them a plaque and give them a gift card and all kinds of great recognition there. And then there's other opportunities throughout the year that they could attend, events that they can attend because they're an Eagle Excellence Award recipient. And then in the meetings that we don't have the Eagle Excellence Award, we have regular recognition where the managers and department heads step up and go through some recognition for their teams. So for our frontline teams, we this year have since required our employees to attend. So since COVID, we weren't requiring the employees to come into the office. And that's where you see them just coming in, getting their trucks and leaving, and they never see an employee or coworker throughout the day. So this year we got back to some pre-COVID ideas where it is actually required to attend. So we have our managers, the managers check in their employees and they have to scan a QR code and check in. And so we do require 80% at least of the manager's team. For podcasts. So this is a kind of a creative channel where we've just recently started doing, and we do it quite differently where it's just like less than 10 minutes, around 5 minutes, just a quick business update where this vice president of sales will jump on, give a short business update, and then he'll have some other department head as a guest to go over any other hot topic or anything new or whatever's happening in the company that they could come on and do a Q&A. So it's really casual and easy to digest. It's really informal, but it does humanize leadership and gives them that insight to some hot topics that are going on. So Workshop actually had a webinar maybe last month or the month before on podcasts, and it went into so much more detail, and it's different than the direction we've taken our podcast. So I highly encourage you to go on if you want to learn more about specifically on podcast. There was a lot of questions with podcasts and the time and just the delivery and guests and hosts and all that kind of stuff. There was a great workshop webinar for that one. But we know it's not for everybody. We have about 10% of our employees that listen regularly. And it's just something as a supplemental channel, but it's definitely not going to be the main source of information. For company events. So this is one of our goals for the year to have just increase company employee engagement just across the board. So one way that we're doing this is through company events. And so we are able to use that as a channel for communications. And it's just a great way to build connection among coworkers and leadership. Like I've said a million times, some of those frontline employees may not ever see another coworker that day. So this is an opportunity for you to get your friends or your family, maybe your kids, come to an employee event. We have about one event or volunteer opportunity a month. And so it's just this live engaging setting to reinforce some of these key messages. And it's very natural and organic. And it's definitely, there's been conversations of, oh, have you heard of this coming up? Or have you heard this new product? And it's just very casual conversations that happen at these company events. We are a fun industry, so we get to support our customers and our suppliers, which are bars and restaurants and local breweries and really fun stuff that always does make it really exciting. But our employees are very engaged with that. They always walk away with their own kind of employee generated content. They love bringing their friends and their family and their friends and their kids and having those opportunities. Since we do have about one a month at each event, we have about 20% of our employees that attend. And it could be, we try to offer a variety of events. So we do a volleyball tournament, we do a softball tournament. So obviously you have to be able to play those events and wanting to play those kinds of sports. But then we just had a crawfish boil, we had a bowling night, and we have different types of events so that some are date nights, some are family events, so that we can really offer a variety of opportunities and just moments to reinforce our message in a fun, memorable way. So that's all of the channels that we specifically have earmarked these for frontline employees. And back to the slide that Kelsey, that you went to, the analyze, learn, and adjust. So that's just next on the steps. So once you identify your channels and you're generating that content, you're pushing, you're communicating with all of these employees or these frontline employees. So now you really want to stress the importance of the data side. We don't want to just push the messages. We want to measure that impact. So review both the quantitative and the qualitative information, whatever you may have. So with Workshop specifically on quantitative, here's some screenshots on the right, but we have open rates, you have click-through rates, you have the time spent reading. So that's that first donut at the top. You can see if they've read it, they skimmed it, how many seconds that they spent on these emails. Time of day, open or click. So that engagement timeline that I was speaking to earlier, where they got it at 6 a.m., but they didn't even read it till noon. So that's what you actually see in that bar chart right there. And then the last screenshot is that device usage. So are they on their desktop? Or are they reading it on their mobile? And frontline employees, they're on their mobile devices reading these emails. The other quantitative analytics we look at we use Vimeo for all of our videos. So we look at that for impressions and engagement and just seeing if they're If they liked that event recap that we put together, should we do it again next year? Do we need to adjust? Was it too long? When did they drop off on viewing the video? So we pay attention to all of those types of quantitative analytics. And then qualitative. After every event, we push a post-event survey. And then every year I'll do a kind of informal comms survey and just I'll poll about 50 employees, maybe 75 employees, and get some feedback on how they're getting their content, what are they viewing, what are they seeing, what's their primary channel, et cetera, et cetera. I think Workshop has an example template of an internal comms survey that you could, on their website, that you could use, or Kelsey could include the link, but that's really helpful and a good way to base your survey off of. And then for the company-wide, we have an annual employee engagement survey that we push every October. And so this is a really valuable survey because it's how we inform decisions and plan the whole next year based on these results. So specifically, there was something that came out of this last year's engagement survey that we transition some of our internal comms based on this survey. So if you go to the next slide, you can see that employees, based on this survey, we kept hearing in the comments, pros about the company, communication, cons about the company, communication. And so when our HR team is digging down into that and digesting that information, it's okay, communication, but what do you mean communication? It wasn't corporate communication. Those comments were the pros, that they were getting a lot of information about the company. But when we dialed down into it in that middle box of the by position, those questions in particular, we broke those out by position. And our frontline employees were reporting back that they were not getting communication from their direct managers. And that's what they were saying, that communication there was some opportunity there for the company. So in their notes, what needs improvement, it was between the branches, departments, teams, supervisors, and employees. And so we wanted to dial in on that supervisor and employee opportunity. And they weren't hearing about business changes or schedules or routing or work assignments. And so internal comms, we have these resources and tools to build connections. So the question, how can we support in this? How can we work with HR and sales, help make those connections? And so what we did, our solution for the year, if you go to the next slide, Kelsey, is we worked with HR and sales to roll out the weekly rundown. That's what we're calling it. And so every Thursday afternoon, we push out some talking points. And these talking points go to the direct managers, and those managers have to speak with their direct reports in person or over the phone and go through these talking points by the next Tuesday. This was really important, and we're not tracking it, or we're not really holding them accountable, if you will, but we're making sure that it's happening. And I'll show you some ways that we're tracking that, but we are encouraged. The idea of this is to encourage that two-way communication and giving the employees a chance to ask those questions, request support, understand what's happening with their schedule changes. We're putting together talking points for upcoming events or business changes or routing changes, but the manager might have other talking points that they need to go through with this employee. And this is that opportunity and allowing that line of communication to open and dial and enable that dialogue. We are 4 months in now of this new initiative. And so this is just an example of how corporate communications can be that avenue of hitting company goals and improving overall engagement. So in terms of tracking it and the results of this, if you go to the next slide, it's to be continued. We're only 4 months in, but right now we're actually in the middle of pushing a short pulse survey to gauge that impact. So it's been 4 months. We're sending those questions back out to these employees, frontline employees, these drivers and merchandisers, and we're asking those questions again. Okay. And we're going to see if there's any improvement. Are they hearing from their managers? Are there decisions or are their opinions matter? Are they valued? And are they receiving the information they need to do their job? So that's what we're gauging right now. And we're in the middle of that pulse survey. So results are still coming in. We don't have anything to quite report on just yet, but we are continuing to review that. One thing that we are able to track is on the right-hand side, this is just a quick screenshot from an Excel of Workshop analytics. And so these are the open rates from the 16 managers of this one position, SSM. I deleted all their information, their names and information, but you can see that all 16 of these received 15 emails, and you can see who has opened them and who hasn't. And so I've sent this information, and we will on a monthly basis send this information to the sales directors to make sure that, if they can't be having these conversations if they're not even opening the email. So are they getting the email? First question. Two, they need to be opening it. They need to be having these conversations because this is something the VP of sales and this is something the company is putting in place, an initiative that we're focusing on this year. So to make sure that the frontline employees are getting the information that they need from their team. But one thing that's interesting is this idea of manager one-to-one discussion. We've created a new channel this year, and this might be a priority channel as we move forward. Just making sure that managers have the trickle down is happening from leadership to managers. So lastly, our key takeaways, just want to stress, know your audience. That's what we started with. And frontline employees have unique needs. Some are deskless, mobile, on the move. And so understanding all of your employees and how they work helps you choose the right message and tone and channel. Be intentional. Use the channels that you have, but with intention. Not all the messages belong in every format. So use that communication channel purposely. Email for company updates, SMS for urgency, town halls for that connection, or employee events for that connection, and then manager check-ins for clarity and that open dialogue. Measure what matters. Track open rates, click-throughs, all the attendance, the feedback, quantitative and qualitative, not just to prove the success, but to identify what's working and where to improve and to continue or to stop, adjust when needed. And then stay flexible so that adjust when needed. Our employees are ever changing. And so should our communication strategy. What I started with a few years ago has definitely changed. Just about every year, we review and make sure that what we're doing is still working and what do we need to adjust, whether it's the channels or the formats or the frequency, just based on those results and the feedback, but then our business needs as well. So that was the presentation. I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining. Thank you for a workshop, for having me. It's been a pleasure to share a little bit about what we're doing at Silver Eagle to connect with our frontline teams. We definitely do not have it all figured out. I would love to hear from everybody else of what everybody else is doing as well to connect. But hopefully there's something in here that sparked an idea or gave a different perspective on things. So with that, I will give it back to you, Kelsey.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was super, super valuable, super impactful. I know we're going to dive into Q&A here, but there are a few questions that came through the chat. Folks were curious just how big your comms team is.
So it's myself and I have a Reagan. She is a communications coordinator. So between the two of us, we handle all of the internal communications, external social media, everything that includes communications and media.
Awesome. Very cool. We're going to dive into some Q&A, but first, if you are in need of a tool to help engaging with your frontline employees, Workshop can help. So Workshop was built with internal communications in mind. So with our tool, you can measure clicks, open rates, see which employees have or have not read your employee emails. I know Jennifer touched on that. Push your messages to the channels that your team uses the most, including Slack, Teams, SharePoint, and more. So you can really measure those multiple channels. You can communicate with your frontline employees through that two-way SMS, gather campaign data, clearly know your next steps, and improve your strategy over time. So we'll drop a link in the chat if you'd like to see a walkthrough of the platform to see if Workshop would be a good fit for your internal comm strategy. We'd love to show you the platform. And then we did see a lot of questions in the chat about translation. So we do offer translation. We offer over 130 different languages. So we'd love to show you through that as well. And with that, I think it is time for some questions. So I'm going to stop my sharing here and pull up some of these questions here. To kick us off, though, Jennifer, your SMS results were really impressive with a click-through rate of over 50%. How did you get leadership buy-in to use SMS? And what was the decision behind adapting a two-way SMS approach with your frontline employees?
I'm gonna turn my video off again. It's just the delay is distracting me. So I'm so sorry,
Okay,
buddy.
totally fine.
So with two-way, it was actually brought up in my interview years ago. So it was something that the company had already been thinking about and wanting to do. And it was just an easy add-on when we were moving to a workshop, and it was email and SMS. And but we all know that we're on our phones. It is just such a huge opportunity and huge channel. The analytics show that you're mostly on mobile, and we have even group chats within the company. There are a lot of the teams use WhatsApp and some other group chats just among themselves. And so we were missing it. There was a huge opportunity that we were missing from a company perspective of not having SMS. So when we onboarded, it was just a great opportunity. And two-way, when we started with workshop, it was just one way, but y'all have since added two-way about, I don't know, 6 months now, maybe. And we don't use it with everything, obviously, but we used it many times with, I mentioned open enrollment, or if we need a picture from somebody for some reason, or if we need a response. We had an event coming up, and there were some meal changes and dietary restrictions, and we had to send out an email and actually an SMS and make sure that we were having the right meal with that. They wanted that we had the right meal down for them. So we've utilized 2A a lot, and it was just a good opportunity for us.
Awesome. Karen in the chat asked, I work in beverage manufacturing, so also a large frontline workforce who don't have email. We want to use SMS or a mobile app, but asking employees to use their personal phones for work purposes can be a gray area. Can you share any insight on how your team navigated that?
Yes. So it's in our handbook that we do have in there that you may be receiving communications over your personal devices. And that's just understood as when you're signing your handbook. But if we do limit what kind of information that we are sending, that it is very much company specific information and not job specific stuff. So like especially if they're not scheduled to work that day, we want to limit when we're communicating with them while they're off the clock. We have to be careful and walk around that, and do that appropriately. But there's also with SMS an opt out option as well. So I've heard of companies that make them opt in and have them send out the acknowledgement for opting in. But with SMS, with Workshop, there is an opt out option. At any time, at any point, you can opt out whenever you don't want to receive SMS on your personal device.
Yes. And we always recommend including it maybe in your onboarding for an opt-in. I think Mayella dropped in. We do have a template for a employee texting opt-in template that you can use. So we have that on our site as well. Jennifer, you have such a good kind of eclectic channel mix. Meg is wondering, how do you keep the content from feeling repetitive across channels for employees who do receive multiple channels?
I feel that. So it's, yes, repetitive, but there's a quote, and I don't have the exact data, but it's like somebody has to see something 7 times to retain it. It's some number, crazy high number like that. So yes, it can get repetitive, and we have a spreadsheet to track that information of what we're including, when and where, but sometimes it just needs to happen like that. Sometimes it might, in case you have a little in case you missed it, of a video that was showed during a meeting, and we include that on the next email that goes out. So it's just to me, it's okay to get repetitive, because no matter how many times it's sent out, people are still going to say, I didn't see that, or I didn't get that. Or so my personal thought is that it's okay. And how we handle the strategy here is that it's okay that it gets a little repetitive.
Your town halls have an incredible attendance rate at 80%. Do you have any tips on how others can make town halls or their all hands or just company events in general more engaging to help increase that attendance?
Yeah. So a little bit of what I mentioned before, we do require with our communication meeting, is what we call them, our town hall, to attend. And so that is part of why we have a good attendance rate. But we try to make it information that is just very applicable to everybody, and have the recognition piece have the product sampling, and of course the company events, just have it exciting and interesting for our employees to attend. And then the recap survey, we truly utilize that recap survey that goes out after every event to adjust and see what worked and what didn't work.
Awesome. Okay, so you mentioned at the top with your AI image there that frontline communication is a moving goalpost. So, how do you stay ahead of kind of those shifts and keep evolving your strategy?
So every year we just refresh our strategy at the end of the year. It's typically right after that engagement survey that goes out and we're analyzing that information. So we'll wait on HR to figure out the company strategy for the next year of engagement and communication or engagement for the company. And then we will look at how do we support that with communication. So that's where we saw that weekly rundown pop up and an opportunity for corporate communications there. And so we just do a check in on our strategy and just see if everything is still aligning with our employees and how they meet. And we have 1,100 employees, but we still operate really small. And if there is anything that needs to change at any point, we can make that happen really quickly. And so I think that's important too, is while we do it annually on a regular basis, if there is anything to change, be ready for that. And it can change at any point.
I love that. We have a question from Lisa here, and I love this question. How do you communicate the expectation that staying up to date on the company comms is part of everybody's role? So, is internal comms part of the onboarding process or new hire training?
Yes, it is actually. And that's a great point. In our orientation, we have our HR specialist go over some of the comms and channels, and we have them log into Paylocity, and we go through all the recognition and the announcements that are posted there. We have everybody save our phone number in their phones and make sure that they know it's the company number and it's two-way. And so during orientation, they go through those steps as well. And then we say, if you're going to read one email all week, read the weekly update, the Monday email that goes out at noon, because that has everything in there that you need to read to the bottom. Though we need to read all the way to the bottom, but that's all the information that you need to know to be informed with what's going on at Silver Eagle.
Probably time for two more questions here. I've seen quite a few come through about your mobile app specifically. How do you get these frontline workers engaged on that channel? Do they have to have this? Is it optional?
So they do have to have it for clocking in. We have kiosks around the branch for clocking in some of the positions, but if they are an hourly employee, they clock in on their phone. So they have to have the app for that. It's also the app that they use for onboarding, for the application, orientation, all of that information is through that app. So that's why we push everybody to Paylocity, because everything's there. Your paychecks, your pay stubs, payroll calendar, any resources, communicate all of our announcements and recognition, everything is there. So it makes us like internal comms, it makes that easy for us because it's just in one spot.
Awesome. All right. And the question I want to end with, if you could give one piece of advice to internal communicators who maybe are just starting to build their frontline strategy, what would it be?
That is a good question. I would say start with the foundation. Start with your templates, start with your brand, your tone, your language, understand how the company wants to position itself in how you want to present from the corporate perspective. And then do you have operating principles or values that you can tie into your comms on a regular basis? And then start with your audience and your channels. Just do an analysis on your audience, like we did in the beginning. How do you reach them and what channels are you using? And check out your vendors. Make sure all your vendors you're using them to the best of their ability. And are there other options that are really a better fit for you, or do you have a good vendor mix and the channels are good? So I would start with those basics of just understanding, your internal comm strategy overall.
Love that. Well, Jennifer, that is time. We're so grateful you joined us today. Thank you for sharing your insight, your channel mix with everybody who's joined us today. And thank you to everybody who's joined us live and participated in the webinar chat. We always say one of our favorite things about our webinars is how active the chat is. People make connections, share strategy. It's just so inspiring to see. Quick reminder, we will send out the recording, we'll send out the slide deck, all additional resources, how to connect with Jennifer. And if we didn't get to your question, we'll definitely send a follow-up and connect with you there. Jennifer, thank you again.
Thank y'all so much. This is great.
All right, bye y'all. Thank you.